Alright, so you guys made it. You made it to downloading Maya, and you should have opened it up by now, and this is what it should look like. I'm just going to run you through, in this video I'm going to run you through basically the interface and everything, what all this means. It can be really overwhelming, and don't worry, that people spend a lifetime basically perfecting just portions of what Maya is. There's so much behind the scenes going on. But I'm going to break it down to a very simple level so you guys can only focus on what we need, and it'll be a bite-sized piece for us. So at the very beginning, you see what this 3D view. It's at the bottom. It says perspective, or persp for short. So what I can do here is this is where I can navigate, and I'm going to talk to you guys about the navigation, like how to navigate through the 3D space and all that in a later time. But okay, so this is 3D view. Fine. At the top, you have your different file edit and create all these drop-down menus, which are important. Most of them you will not use, and on the left side, don't worry about the left side here. On the bottom is the timeline, so this is very important. So whenever I have an object in here, and I'll go to the beginning of the timeline and I'll set a key on the object, and then I go later in the timeline, so there's another key, and then I can like scrub back and forth to see the animation. So that's the timeline. And then here's the time setting. So like if I want to set this from, you know, frame 1 to frame, I don't know, frame 40 or something, I could do that. So it's just back and forth. Underneath the timeline is, you won't need to worry about. Don't worry about any of this. It's scripting jargon going on. On the right side here, you have the channel box editor, the modeling toolkit. Don't worry about that. Attribute editor. That is important, but it's a bit more advanced, so we won't worry about it here. The channel box will be important, so just keep that open and keep that in mind. Alright, in order to navigate through here, what I'm doing, and you guys are seeing me go all around here. So what I'm doing is when I hold down the Alt on my keyboard, I can Alt left click, and I can navigate and basically rotate around whatever I have. So that's Alt left click. Alt right click trucks in and out. So left click is this, right click is in and out, and then Alt middle click is panning from side to side. So throughout any given animation or modeling, anytime you're in the 3D space in Maya, you're going to be holding the Alt button almost constantly when you're in 3D space. So so that's Alt left, right, and middle mouse click. When I press F, it'll frame in on whatever I have selected. If I don't have anything selected, it'll frame in on whatever the entire scene is. And in this case, there's nothing in the scene, so it's just the grid. So that's when I press F. F will frame in. All right, let's go to. I'm gonna take you guys to a different panel view. This will be important for us to remember. So inside the 3D viewer, you'll see View, Shading, Lighting, Show, Renderer, and Panels. Let's go to Panels. Go to Panel again. Or sorry. So let me start over. So go to Panel, and go to Layouts. 2 panes stacked. So again, that's Panel, Panel. Panel, Layout, and then 2 panes stacked. They used to have a shortcut for it on the left side here, but they took that out in Maya 2017, so that's why I was trying to find it. So this is, so these are 2 different views, as you can see. But the only thing we're going to do is go on the bottom view. Let's change this to the graph editor. So we're going to go to Panels, Panel, and Graph Editor. So you can see that Panels, Panel, Graph Editor. So this is what we want. I'm going to take you through this, but let me get an object in here to show you guys what to do here. So let's go to up on the drop-down menus at the very top of the program. Go to Create, Polygons, cube. So create polygons, cube. And make sure that interactive creation here is not turned on. I'll show you what this does. Create polygons, cube. If interactive creation is on, what will happen is when I create the cube, it'll ask me to draw it in 3D space. I don't really like using that. We don't need to do that. So let's go to create polygons, turn off interactive creation, create polygons, cube. And when you do this, now that it's turned off, it'll just put a cube in the middle of the scene. That's all we really care about. Okay, so now remember how to navigate. So left, right, hold Alt and left, right, middle mouse click to navigate. And whenever you have the screen off like a way you don't want it, highlight the cube and press F, and it'll zoom in on the cube. All right, so remember me talking about the channel editor earlier? This is whenever we have an object in the scene, then this channel editor gets populated. So what will happen is when I can move this object up and down here. I can put in like a value here. Let me put in 1. So you see that it moved the cube. Let me do that again. So translate Y. I'm going to put in 1. It'll move the cube. You guys can go ahead and practice this if you can, or you should be able to. Same thing with rotate. You can rotate this around. Let me rotate it 40. Whatever. Let me also introduce you to the manipulation controls in 3D view. So now that you have these two panes stacked, with your mouse over the 3D view, press the spacebar, and that'll maximize that 3D view. Right? Same thing with the graph editor. When you press spacebar with your mouse over the graph editor, it'll maximize the graph editor. But let's go ahead and maximize the 3D view. And I'm going to show with the cube selected. I'm going to show you if you press W, it brings up the translation controls. I'm going to frame in here. Now with the translation controls selected, you can move this a number of ways. I can grab just the up and down control, which is the Y, the left and right control, which is X, and again with the Y is always green, always. So you'll see it's green, and when I have it selected, it'll highlight. But when it's not selected, it's green. So you can move this up and down in Y, which is the green control, a green, I guess, path. Left and right with red or X, and then forward and back with Z or blue. All right, so that's one way to move this object. Got it? You guys should be able to try this and mess with it. The next thing is if I wanted to manipulate 2 axes at the same time, I can grab these sort of square controls here. What this is it adds, in this case, it gets the Y and the Z, the Y and the X, so the green and the red is what this will move. So when in 3D space, no matter where I am, if I move just this control, it'll only move it on those 2 axes. And what I'm doing right here, you guys just saw me, I'm pressing Z to undo, and then Shift Z to redo. So that's a very important command to remember. So Z to undo, Shift Z to redo. Okay. And same thing if I grab this square here, it moves just in those 2 axes. Now let's say I have this cube way over here. Let's not go there yet because I need to tell you about rotation as well. So I'm going to frame it on the cube. We just talked about translation. Oh yeah, if I select the middle control here, it just moves based on my view. So it's moving in all 3 axes. In fact, you can see it here on the channel box. You see all what I have selected here. You will see this manipulate when I move the cube. You see how that manipulates? So that's pretty cool. All right, so that's W. W is to translate. Again, W is to translate. When you press E, E is to rotate. Same type of thing applies. You don't have those square boxes, but I can select either one axis at a time, or without, just kind of in the middle of all 3 axes, you can just select and it'll rotate all of them. Got it? And again, you can see it manipulating in the channel box. All right. The next one is scale. So R. If you press R, that's scale. So you guys can have some fun with this if you want. Same principles apply. So that's W is translate, E is rotate, R is scale. Z is undo. So if this is something out of the way, Z is undo. Shift Z is redo. Z undo, Shift Z, redo. Again, if you need to hold down Alt to hover around. It'll take a little bit to get used to all this. So hold down Alt to move around. Now, whenever I have something selected and you know let's say the translation tool is selected, oftentimes what I'll do is press Q to just sort of clean the palette and deselect everything. So again, if I have whatever selected, W, E, or R, and I just want to have nothing, no manipulation control selected, I'll press Q, and that just sort of clears the palette. Okay, so that's just the manipulation controls. You guys should have a lot of fun with that. I'm going to press spacebar to minimize this view. And what I'm going to show you is in the graph editor. Let's go ahead and populate the graph editor. So I'm going to have the cube selected. Now I'm going to press S on the keyboard, and that's going to save a key. What you'll see is in the channel box, this will get become a different color in the channel box to show that a key is saved. You also see a little red mark on the timeline to show that a key is saved. And then also you will see in the graph editor it'll become populated. Alright, so let's press S on the keyboard. S. Oh, with this selected, S. So you see that? All these are populated the graph editor, colored the channel box, and added, hold on, with the cube selected, you'll see it added a red mark here on the timeline. So that means there's a key there. Let's go down the timeline. Let's go to, I don't know, let's go to frame 60. And press S again, and you'll see that it now created a spline curve. Well, it's not a curve yet, it's just a line. But now we have two keyframes selected. So that means whenever I move this cube on frame 60, you'll see the time, these keys sort of affect each other. I'm going to move the cube, but before I do, we need to make sure that this button is turned on. This is a very important button. This is called the auto key. So the difference here is whenever this is turned off, if I move this cube around and manipulate however I want, there's no key is saved. In fact, you see in the channel box editor, it's sort of like a highlighted color. It's like a pink to be like a highlight of the red. It means there's no key saved. It's changed, but there's no key saved. So that means if I move the timeline, it'll pop back, which is a very annoying thing when you spend a lot of time on a pose and you forget to have auto key turned on, and then you scrub the timeline and you lose all that work. So what we need to do is make sure this auto key is turned on. Again, it's in the bottom right corner. It's a little plus sign, so let's turn that on. So now whenever I have the cube selected and I press W and I move this to wherever, you'll see all these things start to take place. Hold on, I need to show you what happened. Let's do scale. So we'll be able to see scale better in the timeline. What's happening is I translated it, but you can't see it very much in the timeline because it's such a small amount. But let's try scale. It's still small. All right, let's try this. What's happening is this control here. If we highlight these two keys, that's way up here. What happened is when we press S on the keyboard, it saved a key on every type of attribute that this cube has. One of those attributes is whatever this is. It's an AI color temperature, which we don't need to. Don't worry about that. We don't need it. We'll just select these two keys and press delete on the keyboard. So again, I'm going to press Z to undo. Select these two keys. Press delete on the keyboard. And remember, you can frame in on your keys in the graph editor by pressing F. Remember, F always frames whatever you have selected. So after I deleted that, whatever that attribute was, and I press F on the graph editor, it zooms in to the keys that I have selected. So let's see if this makes it a little easier to read. Oh yeah, way easier. Okay, so now on frame 60, you'll see when I move the cube, it's going to do a lot more. You'll see a lot more action. Okay, let's just move it anywhere. Right here, fine. So again, you see the first key here it stays the same, exactly where we have it. And the key on frame 60 is manipulation has occurred, and it's off screen. So again, let's just make sure our mouse is on the graph editor, press F on the keyboard, and you'll see now it frames it nicely. So you'll see the frame 0 and frame 60 have different values, so that means when we scrub the timeline, you'll see this cube start to translate. See that? Pretty cool, huh? And then of course if we press play on the timeline, you'll see that play throughout. And while it's playing, you can actually hover around it if you want, which is pretty nice. Okay, so that's pretty cool. Let's see, what else is there? Yeah, I think that's all we need to really worry about with the interface in terms of animation. Now, of course, with modeling and rigging, there's a lot going on to learn. Even in animation, I just gave you a small snippet of what to learn with the animation. But this should be enough that you guys can sort of just like practice with it and just sort of play around, draw a cube if you guys want. So only select the cube and press delete to delete it. No, it didn't delete it. What I'm going to have to do is open up, oh sorry, I'm going to do it this way so you guys know what I'm doing. I'm going to open up Windows Outliner. This is the outliner of the entire scene. So if I have the cube selected, I don't know why it's not deleting. Edit delete. I wonder why that didn't work. Okay, so that should give you enough to play around. You guys can, if you want, you can create a different shape. Maybe you want a sphere. You can create a sphere and play with that and have some fun with that. Alright, so that's it for this video. In the next video, we're going to talk about a bouncing ball. So we're actually going to use this sphere, and then we're going to animate it properly to make it look like it's bouncing. Alright, see you guys in the next video.